welcome to my views and news viewers second video, Thursday's second video for you. Since yesterday we have been hearing that Tigray forces stormed warehouses of aid agencies, especially World Food Programme in Mekelle, and 12 fuel tankers were stolen. They were taken by force by Tigray forces. The fuel was meant for humanitarian purposes, but it was taken by force by Tigray Defense Force. What happened there? Because some pro-Tigray analysts, activists, they are claiming that Tigray lent fuel to World Food Programme a few months ago, and Tigray was asking for return of the fuel, and this is the fuel that Tigray lent to WFP. So it's not that Tigray has taken away fuel by force. We have received some information from the ground. What happened? Did Tigray lend fuel to World Food Programme? Firstly. Secondly, what about aid stock, food aid stock in Tigray? Now when war has broken out, how much is aid in store in Tigray's capital, Mekelle? And can Tigray forces take control of the warehouses where this food aid is stored? And lastly, again through some sources, we have received reliable information about some secret flights to Tigray's capital, Mekelle. How many flights were conducted, from where the flights flew, what were the flights carrying. We have details for you. Firstly, WFP has confirmed, UN Secretary General yesterday, his spokesperson yesterday confirmed in a press briefing that Tigray forces had stormed WFP's warehouses in Mekelle, Tigray's capital, and 12 fuel tankers were taken by force by Tigray forces. And since then, we are seeing a counter campaign launched by Tigray-backed activists. I wouldn't name anyone. They are saying that Tigray lent fuel to WFP. So this is the fuel that Tigray lent to WFP. Well, what we have learned is that Tigray forces lent fuel to WFP on 2 occasions. Firstly, last year. Last year, Tigray forces were in control of Kambolja town, and we know that in Kambolja city, there is a large fuel depot. Largest, I think, in the region. And Tigray forces were in control of that fuel depot. And back then, WFP was in need of fuel. And though that wasn't Tigray's fuel, technically, because that was Kambolcha's fuel, Ethiopian federal government's fuel. But back then, Tigray forces gave fuel to WFP, and WFP paid for the fuel last year. Then this year as well, humanitarian agencies were in need of fuel, and they procured fuel in Tigray. But this time, WFP officials say that a private contractor gave fuel to the WFP, and WFP paid for the fuel. Tigray government had nothing to do with this fuel purchase by WFP from a private contractor in Tigray. There was no communication whatsoever between Tigray regional government and World Food Programme or other aid agencies regarding purchase of fuel. Communication which happened a few months ago was between a private contractor, and WFP. WFP got fuel, it paid for the fuel. So that is WFP's position. But for the last 3 days, Tigray authorities were pressing WFP to return the fuel. Some communication was underway, and then we know what happened yesterday. So WFP's position is very clear that Tigray government did not lend any fuel to WFP. Secondly, what about food aid? Because if fuel can be stolen, if fuel can be taken away by force, food aid, food warehouses can also be attacked by Tigray fighters, Tigray forces. How much food is in store in WFP other warehouses in Mekelle? More than 30,000 metric tons of food is in store in Tigray's capital, Mekelle. And obviously, WFP, other agencies, they cannot resist if Tigray forces decide to take control of these warehouses by force. It has not happened so far. But WFP is helpless if Tigray decides to take control of food warehouses. And secondly, no WFP or other agency official is in the custody of Tigray forces. We have confirmed. Yesterday, when Tigray forces attacked WFP warehouses, they detained one official of an aid agency. But the official was later released. So all rumors being spread that aid workers have been detained by Tigray fighters are baseless, according to information that we have received. Secondly, through some sources, we have received information which we cannot back with any pictures or videos. But the sources are very reliable, and according to the sources, Tigray regional government has been receiving some sort of assistance from a neighboring country, from a country you can say. And the assistance was being supplied by planes. The planes landed at Mekelle airport, and in August reportedly, and in the last days of July as well, some flights were seen, unauthorized flights which landed at Mekelle airport. And last flight was seen around 2 days ago at Mekelle airport, before the claim that one plane carrying arms was shot down by Ethiopian government forces. Before that, I think 2 days before that, last flight was seen at Mekelle airport. This is what we have learned through some sources which are very reliable, and it seems that both parties made their preparations for this war. Tigray has been making preparations in terms of receiving assistance. What was this assistance? Were there arms on board the planes or some other assistance? It's not clear. But several flights have been seen reportedly arriving at Mekelle airport. So it means that TDF has made its preparations. It's not just border fighting between Tigray fighters and Ethiopian government forces on southern front. This war is expected to go on. Question is, how did these flights manage to enter Ethiopian airspace? If the flights entered from Sudan, where were Ethiopian forces? Where were their air defense systems, their radars? Either they took the situation lightly and Tigray regional government kept on receiving assistance, while Ethiopian government was not taking the threat of new offensive from Tigray seriously a few days ago maybe. Or the flights could not be tracked because the flight, those who operated flights ensured that the flights evade radars of Ethiopian forces. So that is what we have learned. It means that this war is set to go on. Ethiopian government has also been making preparations. Yes, we know that it has been buying new weapons, training its forces. So it is all prepared as well for this new offensive, and it is saying that this time it is going to bury Tigray Liberation Front. Just a few days ago, we shared a post which was published by Ethiopian press agency, and the post read that TPLF would be buried. So Ethiopian government has been making preparations as well. Lastly, viewers, while Tigray forces attacked warehouses of WFP in Mekelle, this aid will go to Tigray forces, not to the people of Tigray. Because the priority for Tigray regional government is to break the siege. They want the Ethiopian government to lift the siege, or they want to break it. So for them, priority is fighting now in current situation. So they'll try to feed their fighters, they'll try to provide fuel to their army. Common people in Tigray will suffer. They're already suffering. They're dying of hunger. And if this war goes on, and if TDF is unable to advance into neighboring Amhara Afar regions, people of Tigray will suffer more. But if TDF starts advancing into Amhara Afar regions, then it can manage to provide food for its people in Tigray. If it is unable to advance, then hard times ahead for the people of Tigray. Thank you for watching.